various formative assessment and summative assessment, and especially the digital tools that enables us, the teachers, to engage in the formative assessment and summative assessment. But more so, what are the digital tools, and then what are the, how do we enhance? The whole objective is how to enhance the average learning outcomes as required to be increased in a class with the diversified learners sitting in my class. So, and finally, I'm going to conclude with, there is a very Gilly Salmon's 5-stage model for, because we are all engaging the students in an online mode. So there is a 5-stage model that is proposed by the university, by Gilly Salmon from University of Western Australia. Just I wanted to share that 5-stage model for effective online learning, and then for any question answers towards the end. So here we can look at there is a digitalization is affecting the every walk of our life, and education is no exception. The two dominant technological paradigms that are shaping the work in the digital era is, one is in the automation, and the second one is yeah. The most important thing is your automation is and communication. These are the two important aspects which is revolutionizing the way we live, the way we produce, the way we deal with every walk of our life. The automation and communication. I'm not getting into details of the automation, and we all know how the automation is affected. An example is, for example, like an Alibaba chain of hotels, right, where there is a complete hospitality chain of hotels where there is no human being existing, everything is automated with the machines, right? The most another important domain which is influencing the digital era is the communication, and that is significantly, it is significantly affecting ours, especially our teaching learning process. In fact, now we can see and imagine that the situation where we all sitting at our comfort of our homes, and then we are sharing the knowledge from coming across from different sectors, from different domains coming up, and then we are able to communicate effectively so that it enhances our productivity in all spheres of life. And we are seeing we are witnessing that through the, thanks to the this pandemic. Now, in this scenario of technological changes and the communication, the way we communicate is significantly is increasing, is significantly changing. The way we communicate with each other, the way we collaborate with each other is significantly changing. In this particular scenario, our education perspectives and the objectives of the learning requires a little shift towards the way conventional thinking is required to be shifted in terms of what should be our focus when the student is able to learn from anything, from anywhere, because we have a various modes of communication that is available, right? Earlier, gone are the days where the teacher is only the source of knowledge, but then the communication technologies have influenced it in significant manner. In such case, what should be our focus of our education? Now, the focus of our education should be to nurture the unique human activities. The way we engage the human activities of the learners is significantly we need to nurture them by incorporating the. So now we know that the human beings possess capacities for innovation, capacities for non-linear thinking, capacities for creation and innovation. These are the most important skill set that is required, which can be possessed by the human beings. So, and hence, all our focus of education should be towards the activities which cannot be replaced with the machine and which can be done only by the human being. And hence, in the context of, there is a way we call higher order thinking skills. That means, how do I nurture my students for capacities for innovation, capacities for non-linear thinking, capacities for collaboration with the others, and collaborate and capacities to create new set of knowledge, new thinking in the. So these are some of the things which is essential and should be focused by our education process. In fact, this is a very good article that I shared this from the Journal of Canadian Association for Curriculum Studies, and interested the faculty can go through that. It's very interesting one. Now, we are all talking so much about AI, right? AI is something which is influencing almost all walks of life towards automation and so on. But SI is all the intelligent algorithms can learn. They can only learn as much as what is already in the data source, and they are most effective within the closed system where we define the complete system of actions that is required is defined. Then your automation and the AI can play a role. But supporting the students to develop unique human skills beyond what computers can think, what computers can do, or will soon be able to achieve, should be the central goal of contemporary education, right? So that means what machine cannot do, where human being is only can required, that should be your. So the developing the unique human skills required, which cannot be replaced with the machines, should be your central goal of your complete contemporary public education. This fundamental shift towards developing human skill recognition and development are the critical aspects of the education. That means entire our education should focus on how do I nurture this unique human skill recognition for capability to innovate, capability to critically thinking, capability to collaborate, capability to create. And then these are the things which should be a sustainable model of teaching and the learning should be part of the teaching learning process. And now, if you know, if you look at the way the things are changing, the 21st century learners are changing. The way what we learn is quite different from the way the current 21st century learners are looking at. They are very tech savvy and they are more inclined to adopt new technologies, and they have too many aspirations to fulfill because there's too much of abundance. They're suffering with an abundance. Now everything is abundant. Now the knowledge is abundant, resources are abundant. But then where to focus on? That is the main problem that the present day learners are facing. Too many aspirations to fulfill, too many choices to focus, and they have a diversity of learners' abilities. The learners, when sitting in the class, they have a diversified learners. There are everybody learning capabilities of all the students sitting in my class are not same, and then are not attracted towards conventional learning methods. The conventional way of learning, the people are not able to, they will not pay attention to, right? And able to learn from anywhere. Now they are, because of the thanks to the communication technology, I can learn from anywhere and from any place. So these are the some of the if you want to enable the teaching learning process to be successful, we have to modulate our teaching learning process to suit the characteristics of the 21st century learners. And then if you look at the what is the characteristics that is expected or that is required by the 21st century teachers, right? And then the teachers' characteristics of to facilitate the 21st century learners are facilitate and inspire the student learning and creativity so that all students achieve in the global society. They all realize their dreams, they all realize their ambitions to fulfill so that they will be good citizens, good indigenous contributing to the society and the growth of the nation, growth of the world. Enable the students to maximize the potential of their formal and informal learning experiences. This is the, sorry. To maximize the potential of their formal and informal learning experiences. This is where our teachers should focus on. How do I provide them the learning experience, either formal, formal, it could be formal or it could be informal mode. So the providing a better learning experience, joyful learning experiences to the learners are the most important skill set that is required for the teachers today. And now, if you look at the facilitate the learning in a multiple modalities, not necessary that it should go in only one particular mode. And I have the different ways by which I can do. So the 21st century learning environments are synchronous, asynchronous, face-to-face, virtual, local, global. We are not talking about the virtual classrooms now. Virtual classrooms have been considered to be a more viable tools for carrying out our education process even much before the epidemic has seen. Most of the universities outside, they started their engaging the students in asynchronous mode also. But now in India, we have started thinking about this asynchronous mode of engaging the students only because of the pandemic. But otherwise, even outside the pandemic, there is a it is engaging the student in asynchronous mode is found to be adding a lot of value addition to the students' learning. And now the teachers is supposed to work as an effective members of the learning teams, right? So we are only key contributor for the learning team. You are part of the learning team, right? So because the learners are the teachers will be part of the learning teams with a wide range of knowledge and skills whose expertise is orchestrated to improve the learning, right? And hence the use of full range of digital learning tools to improve the student engagement and achievement. Teachers will draw on digital technologies to customize learning activities for individual student needs. This is the most important thing. How do I meet the individual student needs? The last session, somebody was talking about personalization of the. How do I reach out to the personalization in the classroom with the using the digital technologies is something what is going to be more effective to motivate and engage the students. So work with their students, co-create new learning opportunities. Teachers must respect their students' abilities to contribute the work of the learning team. Now, the technology-enabled teaching learning and digital skills and the competencies have become crucial for the teachers today, right? Digital skills, the ability to use the different digital tools to engage the students in a most constructive manner so that his formative learning as well as the summative learning is increased considerably is something what is we can't compromise with. It is very much essential part of the present day education. Now, using the technology in the teaching learning process is no longer an option, but it is compulsory. Now, this is what we are saying. If you say I will only use only chalk and talk, and I cannot use any digital tools, you are not in the race at all, right? The teaching demands now it is you need to acquire with the digital schools, even digital tools, even without before starting of the pandemic, right? Not necessarily only the pandemic, even the engaging the students in the technology in the teaching learning process is recognized much more, which can create a much more effective learning among the learners. And of course, NEP 2020 calls for an urgent shift towards the technology-enabled teaching learning process, and also this is only a time. So it's so coincided that NEP 2020 also calls for human individual the individual interest of the student must be safeguarded, and the technology-enabled teaching learning process must also be is in the pipeline as the guidelines from NEP 2020. Now, so what somebody has shared, this is very I like this statement. The technology will not replace the teachers, but definitely teachers that who uses technology will replace the teachers who do not use the technology, right? So though technology will not replace the teachers and the blackboards and the teacher will remain intact, but definitely the teachers who uses technology are definitely going to replace the teachers who are not going to use or who are don't blend the technology in the teaching learning process. That's what is going to be the order of the day. Now, here, this is a very important model of the uh, teaching learning. Here, conventionally, we can see this is a four quadrant approach. So we can see that what do you have on the four quadrant? On the first quadrant, you have your learners, that is our students. And then you have your bottom quadrant, that is what you have your other people like, that's the facilitators or the teachers or instructors or peers or tutors, whatever you call it. So conventionally, the mode of learning is taking place only between the teachers and the taught, right? This is only the mode on which the communication is taking place. The learner is totally depending upon only the teachers to learn anything. But now the situation is something where you also find the other, sorry, the one is intended learning outcomes. I am defining very clearly what my learning outcomes are. Yeah. Here this pain is obstructing the, so so this is your learning environment. Learning environment. So that means providing a learning environment and predefining the clear intended learning outcomes, right? So these are the two things which clearly adds a newer dimensions for the teaching learning process. That means here, if you can create the right learning environment, who can create the right learning environment? It is the teacher who is responsible. The learning can happen in multiple modes, and hence creating the right learning environment is one aspect of it. And then through well defined objectives, the so-called program outcomes, the so-called the course outcomes, what we define through NBA, these are all coming very clear. So now in such scenario, the learner is not only engaging with the teacher, the learner is interacting with the environment. Learner is interacting with the, because he has a very clear objectives are defined through him, and hence the learner is engaged with not only with the teacher but engaging with the environment and engaging with the other materials through which he is able to get clear. So obviously, but the student, by making the student engage with the environment and engage with the predefined goals and objectives which are set forth, and then what is the role in it? The role of the teacher is now changing from, now you provide him what is the learning environment and provide him what are the guiding materials that are required, what are the objectives that he is to fulfill, and then guide the learner. So now what the real role of the teacher is only become a mentor or facilitator. Right? So with this, that means now creating this environment, the role of the teacher is being redefined in the environment where I am providing the multiple modes for enable the students to learn, not only from my, but I create an environment. It's something like is equivalent of, for example, NPTEL or some Coursera, some courses are available. I don't need to make my effort to repeat that, but let the student go through that course material environment, provide them the learning resources and guide them, and then understand what is the difficulty that he is experiencing. And then as a teacher, as a mentor, my focus should be on making his learning outcomes to be realizing the predefined learning outcomes better, right? So that means the teacher role is more moving towards a mentor and a facilitator than simply as a resources, right? Resources are available, quite a plenty of resources are available, right? And so in this context, this chart, so now the impact the learning environment and the learning outcomes, and then roles and other place in facilitate the learning outcomes. Now not only the learners but their environment and the other predefined course objectives will all enable the learning among the learners, realizing the outcomes. All right, and the digital pedagogy, I'm not going into the details of the pedagogy. Pedagogical principles, already we all know that this pedagogy is something what the art of understanding how the learner learns is something which a teacher should understand, so that no, it enables the learner to learn. Now, the digital pedagogy is something is as much as using about the digital tools thoughtfully as it is about deciding when to use which digital tool to use and what is the effect of using a particular digital tool on influencing his learning, and about paying attention to the impact of digital tools on the learning. So there are several digital tools are available for the teachers to, it comes in handy, but then the objective of this, the teacher's role is to identify the right tool and then use the tool for enhancing some activity, on engaging the student in improving the motivation or understand his how far he understood, so that the whole process of the learning is more reinforced, so that ultimately the course objectives and the course outcomes will be realized among the learners, among the all the intended learners of the class. That is the major challenge. Now, the objective of the pedagogical skills is to bring about the best possible learning among, right, best possible learning outcomes among the widest variety of learners. This is the most focus on widest variety of learners. The learners that are sitting in my class are having a wide variety. They are not of the same cognitive skills. Each of them are having a different cognitive skills. That most important challenge that lies in the present day education is how do I make all these learners at least maximize the average learning outcomes among the students. We maximize lifting from we are all will be happy with. We generally will say there is a Gaussian curve, and then we'll say that this focus is on only on the top 15% of it. That's fine, but then it's not that you are a teacher not for only top 15% of the students, top 20% of the students. You are a teacher for 100 students sitting in your class. So what about the rest of them? What are we doing towards that? This is something what conventionally we will not be able to use, but then using the digital technology, we can address this issue much more effectively. That is my focus of my presentation. And then if you look at knowledge is, as I told, knowledge is constructed in the learner's mind and not received from the teacher, right? So that means what I am conveying a certain concept, and the student is in listening and interpreting with his own cognitive skills, and then constructing his knowledge about, when I say thermodynamics, some part of the thermodynamics, he receives all the information that is coming from me, and then he analyzes with his own ability and the cognitive skills, and he constructs about what the first law, second law, third law, what their applications. He is building over the structure on that in his own mind. So that's why knowledge is constructed in the learner's mind. When we talk to the students, our thoughts do not travel seamlessly from our brain to their brains, right? So we will not transmit. If I visualize something, let's say, but now suppose let me take an example of, let's say, if I talk about a railway station, right? If I want to talk about the automation in the railway station, I don't need to describe what the railway station, what railway station is, what does it look like, platform, all that I don't need, because the student already has his mental model of railway station, and then I can start talk about the automation. But then if I'm talking about a new concept for which the background of the student is not there, to bring the mental model of the student, what I think and should be transformed in his mind, it's very difficult. So new concepts, what I'm introducing will be interpreted by the student with the mental models what he or she has built over the several in the in the early stages. Now these mental models, that means whether the ability to construct the new knowledge depends on the mental models what I carry with me to the present from the past, right? If these mental models they are not structured, if they are not structured in a particular manner, it is difficult to receive. That is the reason why if I share the same thing for all 60 students, then 60 students will interpret it in a 60 different ways, because each of them will have a mental model about the background material that is required for that particular concept is different, and hence they all have a different mental models. And it's very important to stimulate the students to build new mental models to engage in deep learning as opposed to the surface learning. The key aspect that is required to be addressed by the teacher in the classroom is you should understand their mental models, whether working properly, whether the mental models, what they have in mind suits to accommodate, it enables the deep learning or not, is something what the teacher has to ensure. But then don't ask me how, as a teacher in my conventional class, how am I to do that? That is something what we are not very clear about, right? And the learner must experience that their mental models do not work or faulty. Now, there is very important aspects. How do I understand the mental models of the teacher, mental models of the students when they're sitting in my class, when I'm talking about? It is very important. Questions are the crucial in changing the mental maps. This is the reason why we ask questions. So after the end of the session, I will ask questions. But then point is, in a conventional class, how many students do respond for the questions? Not many will respond. Other day we discussed about, right? But then how do I only not 15% of the students in question interact, but then how I more number, how do I make the mental models of all 80 students or 90 students will be addressed on that? This is something what you cannot do it in a conventional mode, but using the digital tools, something what you can aim to focus, make the members, all other members also to be participate in the learning process. To stimulate the students to ask their questions is a foundation for learning, right? This is most important thing. Asking the questions and then teacher correcting their mental models, asking, clearing their concepts is very important foundation for enable the learning for the students to get stimulated to learn further. And in this process, the caring is crucial, right? Most important, I am sure all of you agree that unless student feels that the teacher is caring for me, the teacher will not, student will not be able to open up in front of the teacher, right? To change their mental maps, it should be connected with what they care about, their goals, and they set forth themselves. It is very important that I should connect with, as a learner, I have certain ambitions, I have my mental models, what I had, what I have been, which have been built over years of time. But then, how do a teacher should be able to connect their mental models and their ambitions, their interests, their more? Unless you connect their learners' interest, you cannot motivate them, right? It is very important to connect with the students what they care about and their goals is very important. And personalization in the classroom is essential component contributing to the learner. Yes, the whole focus shifts to how do I personalize in my classroom. If you ask me, 80 students are there in the class, can I get personalization? Can I understand their mental models? Well, how far they're able to understand, whether they are not able to, whether they are clear or something is not bothering them. How do I address that? In a conventional mode of classroom, no way that I can address all the 80 students' needs, because whatever you do, the time you is the physical time is the most important constraint. So obviously, unless you leverage on the time, now I don't want to depend on the physical time that I'm meeting with the students, but if I can shift that to the virtual mode of engaging the students, then possibly yes, like a personalization can be improved. So three important aspects of the teaching learning are course planning, student engagement, and the performance assessment. This already we discussed earlier. Yeah, I will come to the questions. Some questions are being posted in the chat box. Just I will come towards the end. Now, engaging the students in asynchronous mode is world over. It is proven that it has a profound influence on the learning. Asynchronous mode. Asynchronous mode means I'm not engaging the student and time. Student and the teacher are in different times, right? I'm not engaging. Right now, we are synchronous. What I'm students, I'm participants, and we are all engaged in the same amount, same clock, same instant of time. But in the asynchronous mode, I leave some exercises students will be doing at different points of time. That's what is asynchronous mode. So engaging the students in asynchronous mode is very important critical aspect which has profound influence on the learning. To meet the objectives, teachers must be acquainted with the domain knowledge, understanding of the pedagogical principles, and all the other things that is already we discussed about. And now the motivation is something what the teachers have to do, how to motivate my all the 80 students sitting in the class. Now, what is the more conventionally, what is the motivation for the students to learn? Motivation for the students to learn is something to get my grades, and then this earlier we discussed about. So the extrinsic reward, right? So that means the marks what I get, the grade what I get, the CGPA what I get, this is an extrinsic reward. So long as the students are focusing only on the extrinsic reward without looking at their intrinsic interests, why should they learn and how does the learning help and how their cognitive skills are going to improve? If you don't, that is what is the intrinsic interest is, right? So this extrinsic reward is your grades or marks or the placements, and this intrinsic interest is learning. What I can do, what a student can do with the learning is something which is most important. So the focus of the teacher role is shift the student's interest from the extrinsic reward to the intrinsic interest? How do I divert that to the student? That's where the teacher has to play a role there. So now, if that motivates, the intrinsic interest should motivate the student, not the extrinsic reward like marks and grades or like placements. But most of the cases that we are seeing today is the grades and marks or on placements is something only motivates. That's what we are looking at. So a paradigm shift is required to motivate the student from not from the extrinsic reward, from the intrinsic interest. That means you should create an interest in it. It is a very, very complex process. It is a very slow process, but is somewhere something which it can have a profound influence on the lifelong learning. We are talking about the lifelong learning skills. Yes, that can happen only if you can bolster the intrinsic interest in the learners. Now, this is something I took from some of the literature where the learners are classified into three learners: deep learners, bulimic learners, and the performance avoiders. Now, deep learners are the learners, the so-called top 5%, 10% of the students who are sitting in the class. In fact, they don't need the teacher. The teacher's lectures are not required. They are capable of learning on their own because the resources are available. They are deep learners. They have intrinsic motivation, intrinsic interest to learn is present in them, and they will be able to carry forward their learning even without the teacher. But if the teacher can advance their learning, but then definitely then we'll talk about the bulimic later. The other important category of the students whom we are concerned is the performance avoiders. The performance avoiders are the students, the most who are the students sitting in the bottom half of your Gaussian curve, right? The performance avoiders. Essentially, these kind of students, they are not confident about themselves. They are not clear about their fundamentals, and they have a fear of failure. Fear of failure means, suppose possibly if I answer a question, possibly I may be wrong. The teacher may humiliate, or others sitting in the class or in front of others, they may laugh at me. So they have a fear of failure. So the fear of failure prevents them from asking any questions, participate in the learning process, right? And then the bulimic learners are that mid-segment learners where what they lack initiative, but the teacher pushes them, give them the push. Possibly, yes, they can learn. So the teachers are very much essential, not for the deep learners, but they are essential for the performance avoiders. They are essential for the bulimic learners, where a gentle push and then enabling them and helping them, caring for them is going to advance their learning in both the bulimic learners and the performance avoiders. Now, it is essential that now most of us in a conventional classroom, we are comfortable in addressing that. I guess my class is over 60 minutes and I deliver 40 lectures. And then some students really get interested, motivated. The so-called deep learners, they will be engaging themselves in the process. And then I only look at the deep learners and I feel comfortable. Yes, looking at this, the student got this national award. This national award is something you may contribute, but essentially inherently, because of his ability in his inherent cognitive skill that he possesses in his interest, is something what has enabled him to achieve those credits. But the teacher is instrumental in doing that. But then teacher's role is very much required in terms of the bulimic learners and pushing the bulimic learners and elevating the performance avoiders, their confidence, so that they participate in the learning process, right? So it is required that can we do in the convention, the most challenge lies here is, can I address all the students of deep learners, bulimic learners, and the performance avoiders? Can a single strategy be helpful for meeting the requirements of all the three kinds of learners? Any responses? Can any single strategist or a conventional strategist that I'm addressing in my class, is it going to be helpful for all the three kinds of learners? Yeah, right. It requires a different task. A single task will not be helpful. Multiple strategies are required for each of them. So there's different strategies are required for deep learners to motivate them further, and bulimic learners are needed because they require a little push, but they are capable of learning for themselves. The strategies required for them is different. And the performance avoidance is where they lack confidence and their fundamentals are not so strong. So the kind of strategies required to address them is all very much different. So how do I engage the three different strategies? How do I do in a conventional classroom of chalk and talk? Absolutely will not be able to address all these three issues. The different strategies cannot be done. But then this is where the role of the digital tools and digital technologies comes in. I can segregate them. I can address. First thing is identifying them. How do I identify? Right? I cannot identify because the students do not respond. 5 students will respond in a class and rest of them do not respond. I don't know whether they come under bulimic learner category or they come under performance avoider category. I cannot assess them. I cannot identify them. Forget about the strategies, what I can adopt to help them. Right? This is the most important challenge that we face today. And now, before I proceed with the further on this, there is a beautiful Siegfried Engelmann. There's a very beautiful quote from him. He says that any student can learn any skill if and only if the following conditions are fulfilled. Any student can learn at the student's skill level. He learn. How do I plan? And then instruction is modified according to the student's rate of learning. The students' rate of learning are not same. Each of them are at different levels, different learns the capabilities to learn, different cognitive skills they have. How do I, if I give the same thing, possibly yes, no, you cannot. This is right. This is very important. It speaks the bottom line of what the teaching and what should the goal of the teaching is. Right? If my goal of my teaching is to make all 100 learners to learn, they can learn to the required outcomes only when these conditions are fulfilled. They're placed at the instruction at their skill level, and I should make my mode of accommodate at the student's rate of learning. If these things are met, then possibly that means if this is to be met, then what my program structure in the teaching learning process should address these issues, should address this issue, should address this issue. Then only I can learn. Any student, all students can learn all the skills that is required sitting in my class. This is something what the most important challenge that lies ahead of us. Now, there is a Benjamin Bloom. Benjamin Bloom has conducted an experiment. I'm sure all of you are aware of Bloom. Is same that we use the Bloom's taxonomy for cognitive skills like understanding, evaluation, and so on. Bloom's taxonomy, all of us are aware of. So now the same Benjamin Bloom has conducted an experiment, and then he has conducted 3 kinds of classes. One is your conventional class in the conventional mode, like what we have, right? In a conventional face-to-face class, in a 30 students and a teacher, and then he conducted this experiment. He delivered the lectures in a conventional manner, and he assessed the students' performance and the summative assessment scores. And you can see on the vertical axis is number of students, and the x-axis is your students' achievement, right? So now you can see that the Gaussian curve, the conventional mode of you will have a Gaussian curve with an average value being here, right? The average value is here. So that means this is what is the so-called Gaussian curve. What you get towards the after the assessment is something what it is expected. Now his focus was on how do I make. Now you see this is my assessment level is this, right? A number of students, average number of students who have achieved this is something about this. So how do I increase my average number of students achievement is to increase to a higher level. For example, then he has also conducted another experiment. Another experiment where the mastery learning. So the learning curve is following this. You can see that the average outcomes is this, right? So that means what he has done in this mastery learning? He has conducted a number of tutorials for the students for the entire class. Earlier in the conventional mode, he has engaged only 30 classes or whatever the number of classes for the specified number of students. But in the mastery learning, he has conducted tutorials to clarify the students' doubts, and then he conducted the assessment. This, of course, is for a different set of students and different. So then you can see that the average learning out the average number of students who achieve is also increasing, and the learning outcomes is also increased by this much, right? And then he has conducted a third experiment where he has tutored all the students individually. He has tutored the students individually, and then he found that the learning outcomes after the assessment is increased by this. So that means here the increase, this is what we call as the double sigma effect. The average summative scores is increased by two times the standard deviation what he has observed with reference to the conventional class, right? The number of students is increased, and the average learning outcomes realized by the average is also increased by two times the standard deviation what he has noticed with the conventional class. This is what is well known as a Bloom's double sigma effect. No, if my students are sitting in my class, is it not should I not focus on realizing this kind of an outcome? Then then you all may pounce upon me if you say that there is a class on how do I engage the students in a tutorial mode. This is a tutorial mode, one-to-one. How do I engage them in a one-to-one mode? No way. The conventional way, it's not possible. And then mastery learning is something is possible. But then if not at the tutorial level, can we engage the students in some manner, if not in the tutorial mode, so that the average learning outcomes is increased compared to a conventional classroom, and average number of learners which attains the learning outcomes is increased by some manner from this to this. Can we do that? That is the focus. Can we use the digital tools to do this, to achieve this, which cannot be done in a conventional classroom? I hope is this challenge, is it clear, or any questions at this? Let me see if there is any. How to complete the syllabus within time and how to produce the good result? This is what exactly the point what I am posing here. Sir, kindly share the PPT registered mail ID contemporary teaching learning. Yes, I'll do that. Learning styles are different also. Yes. By understanding various student styles, we can form the teams and so on. Yeah. Now, yeah, I will this. So use the full range of to realize this. The most important thing requirement is the teachers must be able to use the full range of it is the full range of the digital tools, the digital learning tools. He can make use of. He can make use of it to achieve towards that one-to-one personalization. This is what somebody was asking about personalization. We cannot learn. We cannot do that in a somebody is posting how do I complete my syllabus and how do I do reach out the personalization. It cannot happen in the classroom, but it cannot happen in the synchronous mode, but it can happen in asynchronous mode by engaging the students in asynchronous mode of engagement. Now, there are strategic use of the digital tools. The problem that I pose can be realized to some extent. I'm not saying that full extent, to some extent, by using the strategic use of the digital tools for enhancing the average learning outcomes of the students. I'm sure many of you, in fact, I saw the thanks for all of those who have responded for the my Google form. What I said, about 19 participants have responded on that, and then quite few of you are aware of the digital tools, and it is okay. There are I'm sure that most of you are aware of the content tools, the video content generation tools which are available, the screencast-o-matic. There are various video recording tools that are available, open source video recording tools, Screencast-O-Matic, Presentation Tube, broadcasting software, and the Loom. There are several softwares that are available where the lectures can be pre-recorded and shared to the student. And then the sharing platforms, like there are Google Classroom, Edmodo, there are several sharing platforms where the content what I produce, maybe video lectures, maybe presentation, maybe PDF files, maybe my PPTs, I can always share. There are several platforms are available to share to the students, to engage the students. These are all the strategies to engage the students in asynchronous mode. And then LMS, I'm sure quite a few must be aware of the learning management systems, and like Moodle, Q, or Canvas. These learning management systems have very effectively, they have a profound influence on the learners' improvement in the learning outcomes. And there are several assessment tools like Plickers, Clickers, Moodle, Edmodo, Mentimeter, Poll Everywhere, and Flipgrid. There are yeah, I'm going to do it. There are synchronous mode. There are some for synchronous mode like Google Meet, Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams, and then there are the virtual platforms where we are all conversing with, and there are breakout rooms. I'm going to. So these are the several digital tools that are available. I already posed the challenge is how do I make personalization to the individual students level? Can these digital tools come in handy to personalization, to make some personalization, room for personalization with the learners, and then identifying the different strategies for different learners? Yes, I can do that, provided you make use of some of these tools. This is where the point what I want to drive in. Now, strategies, and I'm sure all of us are aware of the formative assessment versus summative assessment. The formative assessment, can somebody tell me which is more important format in the learning? Formative assessment is important or summative assessment is important? I would be happy to get some answers on the chat box. Which is more important for enhancing the learning outcomes of the students? Is the formative assessment is more clear, or yeah, we need to focus more on both are important, but the learning is most important. Learning can take place through the formative assessment. So how do I engage the students in the formative assessment is something what is the scope that you have in a conventional mode of assessing the formative assessment of the students? You ask few questions, but then there's not no, you cannot do much more than that, right? Because the physical time is a constraint. Now, that is one thing. Yeah. So there are several formative digital tools that are available for assessing the students. So for example, this Mentimeter, Poll Everywhere, Flipgrid, Google Forms, Google Classroom. There are several formative tools that are available which can be used and handy in the class, and then that can be assessed. And then the Plickers, just for to get a glimpse of it, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of Mentimeter. I wanted to demonstrate a simple one tool like a Mentimeter, how that can be used for. I'll come out of the sharing. I request all of you to participate in the question that I am going to ask in the Mentimeter. So here, I don't know if some of you are already conversant with Mentimeter, it is fine. But then the question is, how do I provide an interactive live platform, especially when you are having the virtual classroom? Who has switched on their mobiles? Who has switched on their cameras and audios, and then they are not present? They are, how many of them are paying attention, or whether they understood or not, really understood or not? Something where you cannot assess. That is the major challenge that lies ahead of all of us when we are engaging the students in a virtual mode. And something like tools like this will be very helpful. For example, I am going to ask a question through the Mentimeter. I request all of you, there is a code, put them in the chat box. 92. All of you go to www.menti.com and use the code 9258.
What is the code, sir? 9258.
9258985. I posted in the chat box. So there is a question here. Can you share the methods of motivating the students to engage in the deep learning? I'll go to the presentation mode. So can you share the different methods to motivate the students to engage in the deep learning? I request you to share your ideas, brief words in terms of like a group discussion or whatever that you feel like. So I wanted to capture your observations here. I request all the participants to participate in this. You minimize your this browser and then open a browser with www.menti.com, and then it will ask you a code and enter the code 9258985. So this is the okay. Let me start at getting the answers. Google. Can I what the question is? I repeat the question. Share the methods of motivating the students to engage in the deep learning. Questioning? Yes. Making them interacting with the students? Yes. So request you feel free to write whatever you feel like. Real-time application. Yeah. Show them the example why you should connect with the learner. Right? So connect with the interest of the learner. Showing them the real-time application. Creative talk. Group task. Yes. interactive questioning. Only I give 9 responses. Yeah, somebody is talking about this personalization. That means, right? Right. These are the I can gather the quick response of the students and their understanding. Possibly, I can understand even. Yeah. Likewise, this is something where the students would be very interesting. I mean, now here, right? People are responding. There 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost most of them are responding. So this is how we can make the students be alert. If you in a conventional class, why virtually when it is happening, if you can throw some 2 or 3 points that will spend some 5 minutes of time on posing some questions. First thing is you keeping them alert, and then they will also will be responding. And then if the questions are more properly framed, you can also assess their understanding of how far this is fulfilled. Okay, thank you. Thanks for all of you for participating in this. And there is a next question. Yeah, I'll stop here. I'll go for the. I have one more question. Yeah. So can you share the various activities through which you engage the students outside the classroom to enable the deep learning, right? So outside engaging the students and outside this an asynchronous mode of engaging the students is something which is the same code. I think how I got the answers for both things. Assignments, personal assignments, teach to the students, peer group discussions, pra- practical experience. I'm asking the student how do I engage the students in asynchronous mode? That means not in the live to live, not one to one. Quizzes, kind of give. I'm just thinking of on my answers. Peer group discussion. Assignments is something which is relevant. Okay. So I don't know for want of time, I'm skipping this. Right. These are some of the things which you can use. This I wanted to go show that example of how Mentimeter can be used as an interactive tool. I'll stop share this and I'll go back to my presentation. So likewise, there are several. Poll everywhere is there, and some of them are free tools, and some of them are chargeable, unchargeable basis. You can subscribe and then Flipgrid, Google Form, Google Classroom. There are several formatted tools are there. Each of the tool has a certain unique advantage of it and certain strategies, and based on the requirement and based on the issue that is required to be addressed, and then appropriate tool usage will going to definitely is going to enhance the learning outcomes. For example, I don't know, any of you heard about this? Have seen anybody do this? Can somebody recognize this? Can somebody recognize what it is? What are you seeing here?
Sir, is class attendance, sir. QR code.
No, it's not class attendance.
Uh, I mean,
So
okay, sir.
yeah, no. This is a tool, what is known as a plickers, right? See, now after my lecture is over, 40 minutes or 50 minutes, you look at what is that is common among all the students. Can somebody identify? What is common? You see the faces. What is common among all the faces?
Sir, happiness.
Right? So all of them are something new is happening. They're all so this is something what it comes as the a motivation for them to participate and engage in the learning process.
Most
This is
of them
required.
excited.
Yeah.
Most of them in excitement.
Yeah. So something this tool is what is known as a Plickers tool. This Plickers tool is after conducting my class, and then how I want to quickly assess how many students I ask few questions, and with my projector is there, and I project my questions, and then I want to quickly assess how many students have answered right, and how many students have not answered wrong, and so on and so forth. So simply this is the Plickr cards. It is available. Somebody can Google in, and then you can get this Flickr card. So simply with my mobile camera, I can scan all the students' answers, and then I can say the 30% of them answered A, the 20% of them answered B, and how many of them wrong, how many of them are right. I can focus and straight away give the clarification on that, why they are wrong, why students have given a wrong answer, why it's wrong and why it's right, so that no, the issue is gets cleared there, then and there itself. So this is what is very helpful for formative assessment tool, where this can be used in a conventional classroom, not in a virtual classroom, but in a conventional classroom. So you see that the students will be very engaged, and then they will be helping them to construct their ideas in a structured manner, in a rightful manner, right? If my clarification is there and they doubt immediately, possibly yes, they can rebuild their concepts, and so that they will have they will have confidence about what they have learned and what they understood, right? I'm sure that using this kind of a tools is definitely is going to enhance the students' interest, and the students' learning outcomes can be improved. This is one such thing. There are many such tools are available. My focus of my presentation was to drive you the point that the learning outcomes can be assessed and create more interest among the students, so that realizable learning outcomes can be enhanced. And I'm sure anybody heard about virtual breakout rooms in the virtual platforms? We are using the Zoom, WebEx, Google Meet, and Google Meet also had now virtual breakout rooms, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, handling multiple team parallelly,
In the yeah.
multiple group of students, we can make a group of students. We
Yeah.
can handle parallelly in sessions.
Yeah, that's it. That's what is the virtual breakout room is. You identify, classify them, group them into 2 or 3 groups, and give them some exercise to discuss among themselves, and then come out to each one group, like physically what you do in a classroom, right? Physically, you have a group discussions in the 4 rooms that happens, and then they discuss and then share it. Something like now you can use your virtual breakout rooms that are available in the virtual platforms, can also be used for initiating a discussion and initiating say peer learning, to collaborative learning among the different groups can be facilitated using the virtual mode. This is going to have a profound influence on the engaging the students and their peer learning. So what the problem that we are facing today is, in the virtual classroom, only the communication is only between the teacher and the students, but the mostly physical classes, the peer learning takes place. The students learn from others, but that is something what is physically missing in the present day virtual classrooms. But then a forum like this, making use of the virtual breakout rooms, and then facilitating the students to interact among themselves on some kind of a discussion on some concept or some application or some group discussion, and then possibly making them to share. These are some of the things that are going to enhance their learning outcomes in a better manner, in spite of these being the virtual mode, right? So, and the most important focus is on flipped classroom. Sorry, flipped classroom and the blended learning. So most effective method of engaging the students is no longer I come to the class and I start discussing them, discussing the fundamentals, and leave the higher order thinking to the students to themselves. That's what we do conventionally. But now, if you use in a flipped classroom, what the students can understand, what the students can read, if you can guide them in an asynchronous mode, and then if you can spend time, a quality time with the interaction to the students in understanding their what they understood and what to think about the developing the higher order thinking skills in my face-to-face class, possibly that is going to have a more effective learning. That's what is known as a flipped classroom. So we are using the flipped classroom mode of engaging the students. And then you have a blended learning. Blended learning means that's what we have. Now, for example, at NIT Warangal, we have a 3 hour classes, the sessions are going on, is going on in a blended learning mode. I am having a 1 hour of my synchronous class and 1 or 2 hours of synchronous class and 2 hours of 3 hours of students. I am engaging the students in asynchronous mode. So the student has to do some activity, thereby he should participate and then enhance his learning before he comes for the next class. So that is what is in a blended learning is going to be the order of the day, where I don't physically engage the students in all the 3 hours or all the 5 hours or whatever it is required. I engage the students in physically in a live face-to-face mode in only few classes, but engage them in the activity-based learning. That's what is a blended learning. So either flipped classroom or a blended learning mode is going to result in the better learning outcomes, and then these digital tools are going to enhance, is going to facilitate thus. And of course, for want of time, I'm not getting into details of the Edmodo. Edmodo, I'm not sure if you have Edmodo is an open source software where the students, you can create a virtual classroom and add students to the students and then engaging the student in a asynchronous mode. So, for example, sure whether I have a time for that. But simple. Somebody who is interested can just go to www.edmodo.com. You can, as a teacher, you can create as a teacher, and then you create your virtual class and add the students like adding to any social network. Right? It creates a password and share the password to all the students, and then all the students will join your class. So virtually you are connecting to the students. So I can share all the material what I want. Tomorrow's class I'm going to share this point and then come prepared for the next class. That's what I share in my Edmodo, and all students will have access to it. And then my PPT or a video, whatever that I share, is already available to them. And then I expect them to read and come to the class. I expect them to read and come to the class. And I know next question that you're going to ask is how many of them are going to come and read and come to the class, right? This is something what a teacher has to play a role in motivating them to engage them in the process, right? So this is something like Edmodo is some tool which is going to become very handy. And then Google Classroom, right? Edmodo is an online platform where the teacher is connected to the students in online mode. It's a free online portal where teacher can register and add students to his class. He will add students to his class, and students and teachers are connected and then online, and he can share the content, interact with the students, asking the queries, and then he can conduct the quiz and then make the answers without you engaging the directly students. You can always conduct the test and make the students know what their mistakes are and why you can always correct. So obviously, the time that is required to be spent by the teacher in this asynchronous mode of engaging the students is much more than what the number of hours of time that is required for the teacher to engage in a synchronous mode. In a synchronous mode, walk and chalk, I spent 3 hours and 4 hours. But if I want to engage the students in an asynchronous mode, the kind of activities that I have to plan, the kind of quizzes that I need to plan and assess them, formative assessment tools that I need to use, this the time that is required is almost double. In fact, most of us are facing that. Though we are working, we say that we are working from the comfort of our homes, but then the time that is required to spend by the teacher is increasing compared to what the time that a teacher has to spend for engaging the students in a physical class, face-to-face class. I'm sure all of you agree with that. Especially with this, This is something where now somebody was asking, should I focus on my uh, completing the syllabus? Should I focus on making them to achieve the higher learning levels? This is what it is. I'm not spending the time in my class. I'm completing my syllabus in my classroom, and I'm sharing the content in a priori what students can read and understand. I'm making them to read and understand outside the classroom. And in the classroom, when I engage the students, I'm trying to make out their understanding, and then I am trying to increase their higher order thinking skills. I'm contributing to helping them to increase their learning outcomes better by clarifying their doubts and giving them assignment and giving them some discussion that is taking place in the class, rather than fundamental teaching, introducing a concept. Introducing a concept, why a teacher is required. The student can learn by supplying the reading material and understand their mental models, whether their mental models are working properly or not. So the teacher is going to effectively help him to enhance their mental models about the concept, so that effective learning can take place. Right, and then I'll skip that at model. In fact, LMS. Right, I'm sure, I don't know how many of you are aware of the Moodle LMS, which is available free of cost. And then if you, for example, this is going to show the, I gave a, I share a lot of material to the students on the LMS portal, right? So now I can, at the end of the day, for example, this is the usage statistics of the students. For example, this is one student by Anmol Nigam for my class, what is happening from Tuesday 22nd to 24th November, right? So I can understand how far he is spending time on the resources, whether is he going through, is he listening, is not listening, is he now look at the other student. There is some other student whose learning statistics are usage statistics on the LMS portal, the content what I am sharing. I can get to know about them. I can get to know, and then possibly I focus, and then if I understand that, possibly once I notice this, now and then I keep asking Anmol Kumar, why you are not back, what's the problem, how I can. So without using this, no way that I can understand who is watching, who is not watching, and so on and so forth. But having a right kind of an LMS learning management platform, I can monitor the activities of the students virtually. I'm not engaging them. I'm engaging all students only in a synchronous mode in a 60 minutes of time. But the digital tool like an LMS, I can always monitor the students who are participating, who is not participating, whether he's going through the sharing the contents, he's responding by conducting the quizzes now and then, by assessing their marks. I can participate, I engage the students in asynchronous mode, assess them in the formative assessment. I can group them. I can spend my time in communicating with the digital tools, in helping them to clarify their doubts, not necessarily only in a synchronous mode of 60 minutes of time, what I'm spending in my class. This is how I can enhance my learning outcomes by engaging the students with their digital tools in an asynchronous mode of learning. This is the point what I want to drive. And then obviously this is going to enhance the learning or average learning outcomes is increased by this method. Now, finally, I'll conclude with there is a very important Gilly Salmon's 5-stage model for especially that is applicable for online learning. Now, you can see that there are 5 stages. The first stage is the access and motivation. So, the first step for the students is access, making the material available to the student, accessible to the resources, and then motivating the students, right? This is the fundamental step. And the second step is online socialization. Socialization means this is all for online learning. So socialization means the students should be made to feel comfort when to interact in the social media, right? If we use a WhatsApp or use something, possibly students may not be able to, an LMS students may not be able to interact, personalization level may not interact because they have a lot of inhibitions. Something what a teacher has to play a role in socializing with the students, so that fear of failure or fear of some complexion can be overcome, so that they will feel free to interact with you. This is the most important step. And then the third important step is information exchange, right? Information exchange. I share the material, I share the communication, and so on and so forth. And the knowledge construction. right? Creating a knowledge construction in the student's mind. This is what it is. How do I assess whether he has constructed the right knowledge in his mind or not? This is where you need your formative assessment tools comes in handy, and then ensure and then you help them in the development of their mental models, right? These are the 5 important stages. Again, uh, making the resources accessible to the learner and motivation first, and online socialization with the students, and then exchanging of information to the students, and then understanding the knowledge construction in the learner's mind using the formative assessment tools, and then finally development of the realizing of the course outcomes. These are the 5 important stages that should happen. Oh, the developments and the knowledge construction should happen. Cannot happen without these first, second, and third steps, right? So this is where your first, second, and third steps will be helpful in using the different digital tools. For example, in each of this, so right, there is something what you have a technical support and then moderating. The technical support, for example, if you look at your access and motivation, setting up of the system and accessible to the information is something which is technically is required. I need to have the support. I need to formulate an LMS and make the LMS accessible to the student. That is the fundamental requirement, right? Or some digital tools which are not available openly, then how do I make it accessible to the students, right? The setting up of the system and making it accessible to the students is one thing, and welcoming and encouraging them is the motivation. And the second part is the sending and receiving messages, and then you have your familiarization, making the student get familiarized. For example, if I introduce LMS, to make the students get familiarized with an LMS, how to interact with them, make them comfortable in using the LMS is something what I should facilitate it, right? And so on and so forth. These are the 5 different steps. So, if you look at this access and motivation, setting up of the system and accessing it, welcoming and encouraging, these are the actionable items required. And the second is your online socialization, the different sending and receiving messages to the students, and then familiarizing and providing the bridges between the cultural, social, and learning environment. This is most important. Cultural and social environment. Somebody may, I speak English, and some of the students may not follow very fluent English, and then there he is the student. I should address that issue as well to some extent, to if not to a full extent, but then making this learners to be comfortable providing the right platform is something like online socialization. Third one is your information exchange. The information exchange could be searching the personalized software, facilitating the task and supporting use of learning materials, right? Learning materials, my PPTs or the videos that are available, I share that. And then knowledge construction, I should help with all this. The learner should be able to construct the knowledge in his own mind. So facilitating the process, conferencing, there where my physical, see, keep in mind, my physical presence, interaction, one-to-one correspondence comes only here. It is not in the one or two, 1, 2, 3 stages. I'm not using any physical presence. I'm only using this for one, accessing and motivation. I'm sharing them some of the why they should be motivated, what are the learning outcomes expected, wow, if he learns, what is going to happen, all that I'm sharing. And then I'm providing the online socialization, and then I'm doing only asynchronous mode. My synchronous mode coming only the third stage, fourth stage here, conferencing, right? So when I'm meeting the student in a conferencing mode, then I'm trying to help him out in constructing his knowledge in a rightful manner by conducting some formative assessment tools, and so that he build his knowledge and construct his concept in a rightful manner. And then, of course, that's what is happening in the development mode. So this is somehow with if I strongly feel that some of you may agree and some of you may not agree, but I feel that making use of the digital tools, I cannot in a conventional mode what I cannot achieve can be achieved in this virtual mode when I engage the students in a right manner using the right digital tools by adopting the right strategies. I can average learning outcomes can be enhanced as per what the Bloom's double sigma effect shows. That's the point what I want to drive. Yeah, I think that's all from. I think I am already crossed over the time. That's all I wanted to convey from my presentation. I hope the point what I want to drive is clear and loud. I would be happy to answer some of the questions if you have any.
Sudhir, Sudhir Kumar garu.
Sir,
Yeah, just common question that I come across whenever I share these views in any of the forums is, see, my class is there. I have a 2 3 subjects in a semester, and then I had to spend a lot of time for the covering the syllabus. And where is the time for doing all this? Yes, this is something which I cannot provide any solution, but it's something what if a student, if the teach, if these are objectives are required to be fulfilled, the teacher has to work the time of the number of hours of time the teacher has to spend is increasing much more than what a physical one-to-one class that's going to happen. This is something what you need to pay the price for the requirement what you are going to meet. How do I address that problem? I don't have the solution. That is something possibly something management and institutions which are encouraging them. They should look into that and facilitate the teachers to do in this manner. That's my yeah. I would be happy to answer any questions, please.
sir,
Yes.
sir, this is Dr. Veeramanikam.
Yes, please.
Sir, technological enhancement.
Can I stop sharing this and so that I will,
Yeah, yes, sir. Sarma garu, yes.
yeah, please.
Sir, technological enhancement is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So, Western countries are already in such enhancement in educational platform, but in India, we are lagging in infrastructure as well. So, a few points from your side regarding school level infrastructure as well as the institute level, then the importance of IoT platform related to this.
I fully agree with you. In fact, we have realized it only because of the pandemic. In fact, that's the reason why people say that this pandemic has helped the fast forward the education scenario by 10 years. So without this, possibly we would not have thought about having this, using this kind of a digital tools where most of the universities outside they're already started using it for a long time and they're realizing the fruits of it. Yes, we lag behind in terms of using these technologies for the teaching learning process. Yeah, I cannot say that there is a for possibly the new education policies emphasizes that uses of the technologies to a certain extent. Possibly things would be improved. For example, you look at now some of the not that everywhere some of the universities they are very far ahead in terms of using the technologies, but not all of them. But then we are lag behind in terms of the infrastructure that is required. Possibly yes, it's not infrastructure much required. For example, whatever that I am talking about, these things do not require any infrastructure. These are all available now. Only thing is the teacher has to know about that, and the institutions or the management has to facilitate the teachers using these tools and then possibly leveraging on their time to spend towards using these tools for enhance the learning outcome. That's the only thing that is. I don't think much of infrastructure is required for any of these things. What I shared. Yes, definitely infrastructure is required to be improved if you want to realize your better learning outcomes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. You're right. I think you have addressed almost all the questions in the chat window simultaneously during your presentation. I request Dr. SLN sir to give the closing remarks because it is he has to consolidate. SLN sir, are you there?
Yeah. Good
Sir.
evening again. I need now. Sarma garu is a very good teacher. There is no consolidation. Every slide is very important. I was watching continuously. It is really wonderful topic, and I really thank Sudhir Kumar to really say. I know Siva Sarma garu for last 10 years. No issues on that. But the way I thought that he's a very good in research in electrical engineering. He's very good in education technology also. Excellent in education technology also. The presentation what he gave, and really it is fortunate for us to have him with us in the evening. I think if there is no other questions, Sudhir Kumar, you can go for vote of thanks. After vote of
Yeah.
after vote of thanks, I request you to stop the video recording. Then we'll
Yes,
have
sir.
our national anthem.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Right. Thank you.
So, thank you, SLN sir. On behalf of Education Society Chapter, IEEE Vizag Bay Section, I thank you very much, sir, Professor DVSS Siva Sarma, sir, because in the first part, everybody is excited. You have given a very good insight. Now, I think you have given a lot of homework for all of us. What are the opportunities that we can explore with all the open source LMS like Edmodo and Moodle, of course, polling technology enabled learning and everything. This is not just giving a small type of lecture, but as SLN sir rightly said, there is a lot of information in each and every slide. So we are very fortunate to hear you your talk on last week and today also, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, the Vizag section, for giving me an opportunity to talk to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sarma
Thank you.
garu. Please stop
sir.
recording. We'll go for national anthem.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I stopped it. You can play.